From the Owl's Nest Barbecue Research and Development Studio in Ottawa, Tennessee, it's time for the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show with Steve Ray and his vast array of guests. From right here in Ottawa and from across the barbecue nation, it's time to light the grill, cook the meat, and then repeat. Now live, it's the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show with Steve Ray.
The Owl's Nest Barbecue Show, brought to you by Steve Ray's Midnight Oil and Mission Fire Direct. You need service, hires, you need us, the guys. Midnight Oil. We're brought to you by the complete line of Butcher Barbecue products, barbecue rubs, injections, grilling oils, accessories, and the famous instant read thermometer available. Also at Steve Ray's Midnight Oil in Ottawa. Follow me on YouTube for all the past interviews that we've done here on the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show. Also a few special segments that we've done and we'll be doing between now and Christmas. You can find the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show on Vimeo as well. Follow our barbecue adventures on Instagram, IG. That means Instagram. Follow us on Facebook. The Owl's Nest Barbecue page. Like us on Facebook. And you can also follow us at the gas station. Don't get too close. It's kind of creepy. Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Steve Ray, the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show on a Wednesday night here in Ottawa. Great show lined up. We've got John Hale from Cartersville, Georgia. We'll be telling you a little bit about John in just a few minutes. And we've got Roger Burrows. That's right. Anybody that frequents the Ruth's Chris here in Chattanooga knows Roger. Roger is the executive chef, not only at our Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, he is a coordinator in this region for all of the Ruth Chris Steakhouse. And Roger makes one of the best steaks that you will ever put in your mouth. I promise you. His steaks are off the chain, incredible. Roger came one time. We had a chicken wing contest at UTC a couple years ago. And Roger came out to visit us before the contest. And he brought these filet mignon breakfast biscuits. That's right. A breakfast biscuit made of filet mignon, and he had the au jus that we could dip them in. It was simply incredible. And Roger's going to be here in the 7:35 segment to tell you how to do your Christmas standing rib roast. That's right, a standing rib roast lesson from the executive chef at Chattanooga's Ruth Chris Steakhouse. So I think that's a pretty good lineup for tonight right there. What we're going to do right now, we are going to go to my buddy John Hale. I'm going to introduce you to John. John is a unique fella. He is a really unique fellow. You're going to enjoy listening to him.
Hello, Steve Ray.
Well, what's up, John Hale? How you doing, man?
Living the dream in beautiful Carter's Vegas, Georgia.
Now, folks, let me tell you about John. John is first of all, he's a barbecue pit master. He is a barbecue event promoter. He's a barbecue judge. He is a veteran competitor at the Jack Daniels World Championships just up the road in Lynchburg. But John is best known as the greatest barbecue awards master of ceremonies in the southeastern United States. Aren't you, John?
Man, you are too kind. I do pretty good at holding down the chair till about 4 o'clock, and then anybody can give away money.
Yeah, but John, you do it. You do it with such a flair. You're like the Steve Harvey of barbecue awards, except you don't make mistakes.
Well, I enjoy it, man. I tell you, as you said, I've done a little bit of everything, and I've been lucky and blessed to get asked to do this a lot, and man, I really enjoy it. So we're going to go. We're going to Little Rock to do the KCBS the new World Championships out there in February. So I'm really excited about that, and we do a lot of stuff with Randall, so that'll be, we're helping him out there as well.
Absolutely.
What's going on up your way? Tell me about what's going on in barbecue.
Well, the first thing I was going to say, the first time I saw you was on an episode of it was the last Barbecue Pit Wars when everybody was in Rome, Georgia, and they filmed that at the Roman Roast. And
correct.
You did that award ceremony. And I, of course, my friend, my partner, Dan Grease, and I were there. We competed there. And that was the first time we ever got to see you work. And we were amazed at how good you were, how smooth you were, because John, we cook all weekend, but then the award ceremonies are so often they're just bland and boring, aren't they? There's no excitement, and you make it so exciting. And I know all the competitors were tired, we want to leave, and all that stuff, yada yada yada. But it's still a special time for some people.
It is, Steve. You know as well as I do, man. You never, I don't know a lot of people that truly ever make their money back. You know what? We all started cooking in the backyard because our neighbor told us, "Man, that's the best steak I've ever had," or "You really did a good job." And you know what? That's good. I cook, man. I give away more food than I eat now. I think you wouldn't tell it by my big old belly, but that's what it is. You want people. It feels good. It's a warm fuzzy. And we, all the events I do, we call a top 10, even in backyard. People are like, "Oh, that takes too long," man, especially in backyard. Those are the people that are going to be cooking pro next year and the next year. And they just want to hear their name. We all want to hear our name. I mean, my first trip to Jack Daniels in the Shade Tree Division, we won 10th place in chicken. And I told somebody that's the best place to ever win because it was the first name called out. You can poke out your chest and they're like, "Oh, he's somebody." So, everybody wants to hear their name called.
Well, you are somebody there. No matter where you get your name called, if you get called, it's a Jack. That means you've outcooked some pretty good people, whether you're cooking in the Shade Tree or the professional.
Well, we enjoy it, man, and I really enjoyed coming up your way as well. We got to do Cambridge Squares. You have some cool events going on.
Yeah, we do here in Ottawa.
You and I talked a little bit before about. We really talked about what I like about your events is people come out and people have a great time. People get to eat barbecue. Novel concept these days at a barbecue competition.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, we were talking about that. What, the barbecue events, they're fun for us. And, but there's not a whole lot to do for, people coming to watch. Because a lot of times they don't know when to come. Even when I invite people, I say, well, come around 12, but, don't bother us because we're really busy till 1:30. And then at 1:30,
yeah, come see me at 1:45 and I'll give you my leftovers.
Yeah, and then I'll be dog tired and I won't be any fun to talk to, and I'll be grumpy and sleepy. And then if you hang around for the awards, if I don't win anything, we'll be really grumpy. And then as soon as the awards are over, I'm going to jump in my truck and take off like a rocket back home. So, there's really not a good time other than, I guess, Friday nights to watch barbecue.
Correct. We, and we're seeing a lot more. You do a great job of getting people involved, and it's, you can say, people talk about sanctioning bodies or how it's ran or this or that. Your event, the last one I went to, had about 10 or 12 barbecue people, but it was a total different concept. They turned in one barbecue plate with different stuff on it.
Yeah.
and then you had a steak cook-off. And, you know, it's getting back to where barbecue started. And that's just a bunch of friends getting together on a Saturday. Hey, man, let's see who can do it. Let's see who can put it out there. And it's gotten so tough almost with some of the bigger organizations. You got to have a $60,000, $80,000 truck to pull a $50,000 trailer and come in and spend $2,000 to have all your meat FedExed in the week before.
Yeah.
And you know, I like these meat provided events for cooks, but you know what? There's still nothing for the public, and man, that's why I'm there. We're doing my shameless plugging here, but I do an event in Lawrenceville, and I believe you're bringing the Owl's Nest trailer down there.
We were there last spring. We sure were too.
And it's the first weekend in March. And you know what? I talked with Jim Lloyd. I actually talked with him today. And I said, Jim, tell me why you're the organizer. Scott Smith with Southern Q helps him. I said, why does that thing work and continue to grow? And he said, we have community participation first and foremost. And that, he said, that's what spreads it. He said, the social media part is huge these days. But he said, we get the charity. We have a big charity that we give back to. So all of those people are involved. And that's just like different arms. It's almost like networking. You know, those people are getting their friends, and those people are getting their friends. The barbecue people are getting their friends. So everybody's coming. But he said, we've got to have something for them to do. So they have tons of vendors, local craft. When I say crafts, I'm not talking about your great-grandmother's crochet.
Plastic Clorox pigs and all that stuff. They had good stuff.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I remember the Clorox pig, though, by the way.
Big.
And the propane pig and the old transfer truck tire front yard planter, which was a roadside staple on 411 going to huge, Tennessee.
Yeah.
But he said that the social media is huge. And he said, you got to have something for these folks to do. He said the charity helps bring them in. So the charity part is always, it's good. It's a warm fuzzy for everybody. Everybody wins,
Mm-hmm. There's that contest in Lawrenceville you're talking about. That's a unique venue too. They have it at the ballpark that houses the Braves. Is it the Braves? Is it their AAA or AA team? I think it's a AAA team, isn't it?
It is. It's kind of funny you said that. I'm sitting in the parking lot in Rome, Georgia right now looking at the AA stadium.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the AA. That is their AAA. And they're so close to Atlanta, they had to change the name from the Braves because people were getting their tickets mixed up. Didn't know if they were Atlanta or – so it's Gwinnett County, and it's close to Lake Lanier, which stocks huge striped bass. So they are the Gwinnett Stripers.
Mm-hmm.
That
ballpark, that parking lot in that ballpark is so unique. Where you park at is you go in on each row is asphalt, but where you park is actually grass, which is just great. If for the barbecue teams, because you're on, we'd all rather be on grass than asphalt anytime. At least I would, if it's not raining.
Being a developer, part of that is the islands that they put in.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what municipality you're in, and I built in Gwinnett County, it's kind of tough to build there, but they really regulate how much impervious surface you have and how much will drain. So that's why they have the grass islands.
Mm-hmm.
But what they do not do is they don't put the curb around it, so it makes it just like one asphalt that runs right into grass. And man, your trailer can be on asphalt, and then everything else behind it is on grass. And man, that is so cool. For that Cumming is set up like that as well. Where we did that event, and there are a lot of places that are like that, but that is a very cool concept for barbecue. So,
too, what they did, they brought in the MSL soccer team down there, came down and set up a booth, and these were the ones that just won the MSL championship. Those guys were there last year, And you talk about a draw now. Now it would never occur to me to have a local sporting team come to a barbecue contest. But John, you were there. They drew thousands of people.
It was crazy,
Yeah.
and we've seen that one other time at Pigs and Peaches in Kennesaw, Georgia. One year, the Atlanta Hawks and the Atlanta Thrashers came out. They had basketball goals, and they did, what they were doing is giving away promoting season ticket
Mm-hmm.
packages and things. But they had a goal set up. Then they actually had this little pup that has roller wheels in it that'll go on asphalt.
Yeah.
And they let people set up and take shots. The hockey team let people take shots for prizes. And you know what? There again, those are two of the biggest draws. So that MLS, Atlanta United, was a huge draw down there. Man, you said something, Steve, of talking about Friday, because Friday night is big. Jim Lloyd has a ton of bands down there, has a ton of bands on Saturday, and a lot of those guys donate their time. But the reason I was talking with him and wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about is the state competitions. Right now, that's one of the hottest things going, and I guess it's a subculture. It's a division of barbecue, but we're seeing that on Friday night and Saturdays. Saturday is a standalone event, but they're calling it a jackpot on Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And there again, I think the more people you can get involved at the competition level locally, not somebody that drives 8 hours, but locally, like the sheriff.
And you know why, John? Because they cook where people can watch them, what they're doing. You've got to make these people, you've got to have these teams cooking in a row and not hiding behind a trailer or something like that. You got to have them out. Now you know the event that we did in at Cambridge Square a couple of years ago, the steak competition. It stole the show because all the chefs brought in. I thought we'd have 10 little teams with 10 little PK grills or 10 little Weber grills show up, and it'd be a cute little event. I was wrong. These chefs that entered it, man, they brought their stainless. They had their 4-burner Genesis, and they brought their fans with them, their family and their fans. And each team had a whole fan section. And you remember it was chaos trying to get them up to the stage because there were so many people there.
Correct. So here's one of the things I got to admit. From that, only met her once or twice, but I've got a fan crush. And I heard you were going to have her on the show at one point. Andy Cagle.
She was on last week. She sure was.
So, I met Nick Tears, but I got to meet Andy Cagle and have met her one other time. Mm-hmm. And, man, these people are such professionals, and great because you are cooking. The playing field is really level because these professional chefs are cooking side by side with these guys. Like you said, some of them just have a Weber and some grill grates and something, but others are bringing the crazy, the crazy stuff they do. I mean, up there, those guys they were sous vide and doing torches, all kinds of stuff. So
they get real creative with that steak. Almost anything goes with steak.
Well, Mitchell Bedwell, who cooks with Heath Riles and used to be Victory Lane, but now Heath Riles Barbecue. Mitchell and I are looking to do some stuff. North Georgia, Tennessee, we're going to be doing. We've got some stuff on the books for some Friday nights. They're calling these jackpots, and some Saturdays as well. Where the first one we're going to be doing is SCA, which is the State Cook-Off Association.
Right.
But Randall Bowman and the guys at KCBS, I do a lot with Randall, and so we're going to be doing in February. We're doing a National Grilling Society event at the World Championships, so we'll be there for that. But we'll probably be doing both organizations. I'm apolitical, if you want to call it that. I want to see barbecue further, and I think two things really hit it, man. Is number one, the people can see you. People can see you cooking right there, and it doesn't cost $2,000, $3,000 to go and load up and go somewhere. I had some friends that drove from Cartersville, Georgia to Corinth, Mississippi in a day, 6.5 hours, cooked, and then drove back. And you know what they did? They put 2 PKs. I'm sorry, I got to give props. 2 Rec Tech Bullseyes. They in there, and they cooked. That's what they cooked on. So I think that people are seeing. They can see the event, but they also, if one cook comes out locally, he'll probably bring 5 to 6 people, friends, family, or whatever.
Oh, sure they will.
So that's huge. Is you get a lot more local people, which is local participation. People can actually see it. And you know what? I've got judges. One of the things I think I'm going to run into locally is I've got my stable of judges that, I've got a database of probably 400, but half of my good judges want to cook steak. They're like, I don't worry about judging here. I want to cook steak.
Yeah.
So
because everybody does it. Steak is there something that everybody does. No matter who you are, most people can do a steak.
I can't. I got to admit. I know that sounds crazy, man. I love. I'm decent with pork, and I love chicken. But I've never been a great steak cooker. My dad always cooked the steaks, and that's kind of like who cooks the turkey and who does this and who does that. The family responsibilities. I guess early on I was the roll buyer. And so hey John, call the bakery and order the roll.
Order the rolls.
I never did the steak, so I'm having to learn. I'm a pellet head, so I have a couple of different pellet grills I'm trying. I have a Weber, but my buddy just got the PK Texas, that folds down. Yeah. I am a Grill Grate fan. Brad Barrett and Grill Grates is here, and that is not a shameless plug. That's just, man, that is, if you're going to cook, I think that's a necessity. That's like charcoal, having Grill Grates.
A lot of people don't realize he's just 60 miles from Chattanooga.
That's right.
Yeah.
Go by and see him. And, man, we got to go to his house for the first Friday night steak fight this past summer. And he has a 2 or 3 level deck. And we did Jack's Creek Wagyu, Australian Wagyu. It was ridiculous. And we did it on PK, a Weber, a Genesis. We did it on the Rec Tech was the Rec Tech Bullseye was brand new. And he had the Yoder pellet doing truffle mac and cheese. It was just ridiculous, man. It was with a nice chimichurri sauce. It was pretty impressive, but he's doing a lot of these. He's very active, and so we're looking forward to this season, man. And one of the things I'll commit to you is every event we're going to be involved with, we're going to try to reach out and I think do more social media so we can actually to bring more people in, man. We want to see people enjoy it. We want to see these things not go by the wayside, which is kind of what's happening in the past few years.
Well, John,
see
the reason we're talking about steak is because it's so much fun. And what we need to do is somehow get this fun back into barbecue. Now, there were 10 teams, 10 guys that, formed the National Barbecue League. And they weren't really here in the South. There was more of a Midwest group. But I followed them all summer. And the things that they did Friday nights doing, cooking outside for people to watch, doing demonstrations for people. I think every one of them took a turn during the week, staying afterwards and doing demonstrations with the crowds of people there. I think they took a big step into drawing more people into barbecue. And I think that's what we need to do at all of the events that we go to, have somebody or have a team that'll volunteer to do a demonstration on a Friday, have a team that'll, break down Saturday and wait and, give out the food and tell people, what they're tasting, what rubs and stuff and sauces that they're tasting on it. And I believe that'll help get more people involved.
I think you're right, man. Sterling Ball did a great job at King of the Smoker a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
He had anybody you could think of up there doing demonstrations, breaking product down. My personal favorite is to watch Tim Shear break a butt down
to 4.1 pounds. Yeah,
with shake and bake, and
yeah.
he is phenomenal, and that's a great and quick, and so he did some stuff. They had a few people out there doing some brisket demonstrations.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Clark was out there doing some stuff. You had a ton of folks. But I think you're right about that. We one thing too, Mike Peters and Chris Peters do such a great job with the help me out here. It's the KCBS sponsored trailer. It's the
grilling
cookout.
Thing. Yeah. The Great
National
American Cookout. Yeah.
The Great American Cookout Tour. Yeah. And man, I see them all over, and they're in the South a lot, but
mm-hmm.
man, they're out West, they're up North, they're all over. And I usually see them early in the summer. I'll see them at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and then I'll see them toward the end. We used to see them in Cumming, and man, they're just ready to wind down. But that's so cool because they've got more products. They've got pellet grills and
sure.
Bubba grills and Bubba burgers, and they've got grill grades,
mm-hmm.
and you see different charcoals and McCormick spices and different product, and man, that's what people relate to is, hey, I can do this at my house. And they give out samples, but they also do great product demonstration. Mike is great with that, and Chris holds it together.
Mm-hmm.
That's Mike's handler, but she holds everything together, and they do a great job. And man, that promotes barbecue. It really does, and that's what we're all trying to do. So.
Well, I know the guys in the. They had a great Facebook page, and each one of them put their videos online on breaking down meat and telling people how to do it. You mentioned Tim Shear. He explained how the barrel cooker worked. You had Joe from Slaps Barbecue doing a brisket.
Big Joe. He's a Midwestern guy. Not a lot of folks know him from Slaps.
Yeah.
Big Joe is,
Joe Pierce.
Got to meet him in Cumming last year. I met Big Joe with Slaps. Mm-hmm. And met the guys from Hunka Burning Rub, and man, they live it. They live it. They'll get in and fight, but they know, they study product, man. They study how their rubs and sauces work, and they're professionals, man.
Well, I thought what was so cool about it was they put it out there on the video where you could watch it, and people like me and other competition cooks that are nowhere as good as them, we're watching it. And we're watching it as a study, not just, oh, that's cool. We're going, so that's how they do it, because
Did you pick up something from those?
you get inside, you get inside their trailers. And I know one of them had the idea. I think it may have been Brad Leinecker of talking. I heard him on a talk show the other night. He was saying that, they're going to have a contest where they might just be them, and they'll set up just a 10x10 like they do at the King of the Smoker. But take it, to another contest where people can actually, watch them prep and, walk right up to it. And, I think that is so neat. The most people who get the attention at barbecue contests aren't the guys in the rigs and the big trailers. It's the guys that come in and set up the 10x10 and they're sleeping in anti-gravity chairs at night. They're the ones where the people come and watch because they can see them.
There was, I don't know if you remember Gowan Finley or not. Gowan was around, cooked with Johnny Mitchell's Smokehouse for a long Civil War barbecue, and then Johnny Mitchell's organizer at U Harley and Cartersville. Gowan actually offered a bounty, and I thought, man, we've all talked about it for years about doing an old school competition, no electronics. We talked different things, about how to do that. But and I'm working on some stuff with Jimmy Daniel out of Cumming with Primitive Pits. Big, he makes for all the Texas guys for like Aaron Franklin and some of the Mueller's folks and Blacks and Snows and all these big pits that they have. But we're talking about old school, just taking it back to the way it was. And Gowan offered Gowan offered a bounty of like an old school bounty if you cooked what he called on the ground. If you showed up with a tent and your smoker was on the grass, then he offered a bounty. And I don't know if he did. I think he did one for no electronics.
Yeah.
No power source. I think he did something there too. But that was a few years back, man. And I just thought that was very cool because I wish it caught on a little more. I don't know that it would catch on with what's going on in the pro side of things, but I think there's a category. I think it'd be great for like a fall, like almost a tailgate, like a tailgate type old school throwdown.
Well, John, I tell you, the competition barbecue, you do have to have means to compete in it. But I tell you what, we're going to have to do. I think teams, and I'm talking about every team, we're going to have to put our expectations aside. These guys come in and they promote these things, and they got to have power and they got to have water. And I know that's upwards of $20,000 sometimes, depending on the size of the contest. I think it's time that teams, provide your own power and water. If you've got, we've got all these fancy rigs. That means we've got a generator. We've got 30 to 60 gallon holding tanks. That's enough water for a weekend. Yeah, and that's enough water to clean up. If you got an RV, you've certainly got a 60 tank where you can shower. Sure. And we've got to reduce our expectations on these promoters, and then we can put them in areas where we don't need water and we don't need power. And I know there's people sitting there listening going, God, are you crazy, Steve Ray? No, I'm not crazy. That way it'll lower the cost of being in the competition. And then even then, maybe they can afford to give you the meat. And that's where we need to get to as competitors to make it more fun and more even for everybody. Is the promoters should hand out the meat, and that'll get rid of all this designer meat. And then that'll even the field. And then you know what, John, you can go one step further. Say no sauce. You just turn in barbecue meat.
That's fine.
It's a tenderness game. Let's make it a barbecue contest instead of a sauce contest.
When I was on, when we did, I filmed Pitmasters with Big Jim Stantz on Bare Knuckles Barbecue, and heard Myron 1,000 times say, it's not a beauty contest. It's not a beauty contest. It's about meat. It's about the meat. It's not about the garnish. It's about the meat. And he kept on and on. And I had something happen this summer, and actually it was kind of late spring, I guess. Oh no, it was fall. There's a local Lions club. They call it Pros versus Joes, and I've always supported these guys because they come and sponsor. They help support my local charity tasting event too. And so I go down there. I have a friend who works with one of my customers, and he's been asking for years. You know the type. People ask, well, man, I'd love to get into that. Boy, that'd be fun. Yeah. What I get? What should I get? What should I get? This and that. Well, I walked him through every smoker known to man. Kid's name's Josh Jackson, man. Great dude, and I know he's probably listening tonight because he's texting me. But he's wanting to know where what's going on with all the barbecue stuff. But these guys, he and his cousin, I think, came out and literally they bought right out of the box, bought a Lang 84, a big old offset. He's like, we're going to use it for catering, but we're going to come compete. And you know what? They didn't follow anybody's rules. They cooked old school, slow and low. And there were, Jacob Bunch's trailer was there with a bunch of butts. Scott Edwards with Southern Draw. There were 3 or 4 local names that compete on a regular basis that win. And man, he just waxed them, absolutely waxed them. And I thought that was so cool. Yeah, because
absolutely,
it's good barbecue. It's just old school good barbecue, cooked slow and low, like we all learned. And the chicken wasn't boiled. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I tell you, I think we're going to have to go because I've got Roger Burrows going to be coming up teaching us all how to cook a Christmas. You met Roger at my contest too. He was there.
I did.
Matter of fact, he came in second place. but we're going to learn how to do a standing rib roast. But I think in competition, John, we're really at a crossroads, and I think it's a good thing because I do think in the next few years they're going to figure out a way to lower the cost and make it more fun again for the teams and to get the people who like to watch barbecue involved in it more.
Correct. We're going to fight for it. Mitchell and I are going to try to do some fun stuff with, with the steak.
Mm-hmm.
Randall and I will still be doing some pretty cool stuff. Randall Bowman with barbecue coming up in the next 6 to 8 months. We'll have 2 or 3 events. Atlanta Motor Speedway, great event.
Yep.
If you haven't been down there, it's in conjunction with Summit Racing's Autorama, 1,000-car show, and swap meet and camp out. Just very cool. So we're going to do anything. Steve, you've got a couple coming up as well, I think.
And, we've got the new one here in Lafayette too, coming up at the end
correct.
of May 30th, 31st.
So,
31st
man,
and
thank
July
you
1st,
again for having me on. Always a pleasure.
You bet,
and,
John. Thanks for being on.
I'll see you in March, first weekend in March in Lawrenceville at the Sippin' Swine.
Just look for the big black trailer. I'll be in it.
Al's Nest. Okay, Steve. Take care, brother.
Thank you, John Hale. Great barbecue ambassador. Hey, don't forget, folks, we have got the thermometers in from Butcher Barbecue now. We got our new shipment in, and they are available. Only $19.95 instant read thermometers, and they are in. We've also got the Butcher Barbecue limited edition gift box. We're calling up Roger Burrows right now.
Hello?
Hey, Roger. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you today, Steve?
Man, thank you so much for being with us. We just got off the phone with my friend John Hale talking a little bit of barbecue, and I told John that what we were going to do, and you could hear the excitement in his voice. Of course, John's always excited, but I know he's going to stay tuned in to listen to what you and I are going to talk about right now. We've got Roger Burrows on the line. He is one of the, I guess, Roger, regional executive chef of several Ruth Chris restaurants, correct?
Yes.
And Roger's got a great job. He drives around and tells people at Ruth Chris how to cook steaks. And what a great job, Roger.
It's very interesting. It's a whole lot of fun.
I know it's a lot more than that. I was telling him, Roger, about a couple of years ago when you brought out those tenderloin biscuits down to us for breakfast at the stadium when we were doing that chicken wing contest, and I was telling him how just off the chain delicious that they were when you even brought the au jus for us to dip them in, and that was just one of the best breakfast biscuits I ever had in my life. I mean, in my entire life. They
are really, really good. I love those things.
Hey, Roger, before we get into the standing rib roast, let me ask you something about the steaks at Ruth's Chris. How long are they aged? What is the prototypical steak at Ruth Chris?
We actually wet age our steaks. Okay.
How does that differ?
There's a difference between the wet aging and the dry aging. Dry age is actually done in a controlled environment in a cooler at about 38 degrees. Wet aging is done actually in a cooler at 32 degrees, and it's still in the package. Like when it's cut from the packer, it stays in the package. But what it does is allow the enzymes in the meat to actually kind of break down the meat a little bit and make it more tender.
And so how long does it stay in the package in the cooler? Because 32 degrees, that's frozen. That's frozen.
Yeah. Well, it's not really frozen, honestly. 32 degrees, believe it or not, keeps meat at the perfect temperature.
So it doesn't freeze and get hard.
It actually allows it to last longer. Our meat is actually aged 28 days before we get it.
Wow.
And then anywhere between another 7 to 10 days after we get it is when it's used.
Okay, now when I get my New York strip, when I order, what is the process? When you get the order, you're back there on the line, you got your hat on, you got the fire and all the things going, and everybody's screaming and yelling at each other. How y'all do in kitchens, which just amazes me anyway. And that's a story for a different day. But you get a ticket and you go, Steve wants a New York strip. What is the process then?
A lot of places do a lot of different things to their steaks, but because we serve such high grade meat, we use prime beef for everything.
Mm-hmm.
We season it with salt and pepper.
That's it.
That's all we do. Is we season it with salt and pepper. The steaks, we pre-cut the steaks. Like I have the steaks cut every morning. I cut the steaks every morning almost.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll season them up with salt and pepper. And then we cook them on a grill or on a broiler, which the heat comes from the top on a broiler as opposed to from the bottom like a grill would.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Our broilers reach 1,800 degrees.
Whoa.
So it literally sears the outside of that meat real fast. And if you've ever been like gone outside when it's really hot out,
mm-hmm.
and you're like, holy crap, it's really hot in here. Let me get back where it's cool.
Yeah.
Same thing happens with a steak almost. We'll put the steak on the broiler where it's 1,800 degrees, and all the juices that are at the end of out at the edges of the steak will go, wow, it's hot here. Let me go where it's cool. It all moves to the center of the steak.
Okay.
And it causes the steak to kind of swell up a little bit, so it looks almost like a baseball while it's cooking. And then when we pull it out and we put it on the plate to send out to the table, what actually happens is that steak goes, oh man, it starts to relax. It goes, it's cooling off now. And all those juices go back out to the outer edges of the steak, which is what makes it really flavorful.
So now when you're cooking the steak, do you flip it one time to get both sides, or is it just the one side?
We flip it once.
Okay. And then what is the idea of putting it on a hot plate?
A long time ago, Ruth Fertel, she is the original person with Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. She would serve her steaks every now and then with a little pat of butter on top of them. And when she had noticed that when she served the steaks on the really hot plate and it went out with that butter on it, it caused a nice sizzle and made everybody perk up and smile real big when they did it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we put the butter on it and put it on the hot plate. But the hot plate itself is actually designed to keep the steak hot for the entire time that you're eating it.
Mm-hmm. So
it stays nice and warm the entire time you're eating it.
So there's a little presentation, a little flair, and a little practicality all built into that concept.
Exactly.
All right, that's pretty cool. I like that. All right, let's get to my second most favorite thing to cook after a brisket is a standing rib roast. And what I want to do, Roger, I've got my method, but I want to hear it from a world-renowned chef like yourself on the Roger Burrows Ruth Chris method of a standing rib roast. And it might be your own personal way may be different than the company you work for. So you pick the best one and you let us have it. Now, I want everybody to get your pencil and pen ready and write these directions down, because at the end of this interview, you will be an expert at standing rib roast, and you will awe your neighbors and friends. Go ahead, Roger.
Okay, well, a standing rib roast is also called prime rib. A lot of people call it the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. It's prime rib. It's fantastic. It's actually one of my favorite ways to eat beef is as a prime rib. Slow roasted, unbelievable flavor, great. All the seasonings that you put on it are all absorbed into it as it cooks. What I actually do with the rib roast is I actually season it up with fresh chopped garlic, fresh rosemary, fresh thyme, salt, black pepper, and oil. I use a little bit of canola oil, mix all that together, and then I rub down the roast and let it set overnight with that on it.
All night.
All night in the refrigerator. Let it set all night, just like that.
Do you cover it, Roger, or do you let it sit out in the open air?
Well, I let it sit in the open air.
Okay.
But I actually have a bigger refrigerator at work than most people have at home.
Right.
So it's easier for me to do that with.
Well, a lot of people that watch this show, and a lot of food people, we have, like, I've got a refrigerator out in the garage, and I use that for my special events refrigerator. So,
So that makes sense.
Yeah, we probably have space.
Okay. Okay, so I let it set overnight, and then about an hour or so before I aim to cook it, I actually pull it out of the refrigerator and let it warm up to room temperature a little bit.
Okay.
And I turn my oven up. I crank my oven up to 450 degrees. Very first thing I do.
Okay.
And I put that rib roast on the pan that I'm going to cook it in. I could have a drip pan underneath of it if you want to use that. A lot of people put a mirepoix underneath of it, which is onion, celery, and carrots, just right underneath of it because I feel like the vegetables give it a little more flavor as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you set it right on top of that, and you stick it in your oven at 450 degrees for 30 minutes. Okay. And what you're doing when you're doing that is you're technically trying to sear the outside.
Okay.
So that none of the juices escape. Okay.
Okay.
Then once you've hit that 30-minute mark, you turn it down to 325 degrees and you slow roast it the rest of the way. Cook it about 15 minutes per pound.
Okay.
And just let it go. And if you do that, and if you have a thermometer at home, I know you're selling those instant read thermometers you have there,
yeah.
The barbecue butcher thermometers.
Right.
So I know you have those. So if you get one of those and you're able to use that, you stick that thermometer right in the center of it. Depending on the temperature that you're actually going for, Steve, how do you like to eat your prime rib?
I'm a medium rare guy.
Okay, so I love mine rare, but I like rare meat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the difference between the rare that I love and the medium rare that you like is literally 7 degrees.
Right.
In temperature. So, I actually check the temperature of the ribeye itself to see what temperature is that. Now, I'll actually pull the ribeye because I like it rare. I'll pull it out of the oven at 115 degrees.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you like it medium rare, you want to pull it out of the oven at about 120 degrees. Okay. One of the biggest things to remember when you pull that piece of meat out of the oven and you set it down on your counter, mm-hmm. is that meat is still hot and it's going to continue to cook on the inside. So it does what we usually allow a 15-minute continuous cooking time after we pull it out.
Now, do you cover it, Roger, when you pull it out, do you cover it with foil or anything, or just
nope,
just right out there? Okay.
Set it right on the counter and let it rest. Okay. And then in that 15 minutes, it'll actually start cooling down, but it'll continue cooking, and it'll actually cook up the whole temperature, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. So it'll cook
up another 5 or 6 degrees at that point.
So you'll get to 120, 121, something like that. Yours will?
Yep.
And then so mine would get to 130, 131, which is about perfectly. If I pulled it at 125, it would get to 130, which is probably perfect medium rare.
Exactly.
And,
which is fantastic. And then, you slice it and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can actually take a lot of the drippings that are in the pan and make a nice au jus out of that.
Oh,
and that will make a fantastic sauce for your standing rib roast.
Now, Roger, with the things that you put on it, when you slice yours, does yours have kind of like that crust? Does all those things form a crust on it around that?
There is a little bit of a crust, but it's not. You can't really call it crusty, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's really not that hard. There's a little bit of fat there that you have to trim off. Mm-hmm. But there is a little bit of the crust there as well, and it just leaves a fantastic flavor behind.
Now I've got a I don't know if you're watching on Facebook or not. I've got a 6-bone prime rib on the screen behind me. Does it when you do yours, do you do yours bone in or bone out?
Both. It depends on what it's for or how I'm doing it.
Okay.
If I were doing it at home, I'd do it bone in.
Okay.
For myself.
So the cooking temperature, there's no variation. You pull them all at the same time. Just if it doesn't have a bone in it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if you bone or no bone. It doesn't matter.
Because I think they look pretty cool with the bone in it. I know the bone doesn't do anything, but I think it looks pretty good as far as when you cut it and you present it to your guest. I think it looks pretty good with that big bone in it. Oh,
it looks fantastic, and actually some of the best meat is right around that bone. And truthfully, with the bone on it, it actually imparts a little bit more flavor into the beef.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you actually don't have the bone, like if it's boneless.
Now, Roger, you went through your recipe, and I hear people all the time when we're talking at the gas station, when people are getting tires and stuff, and we're talking about cooking and food, they'll say, oh, I would love to do a prime rib, but I'm so afraid because they're so expensive, and I'm afraid I'll mess it up. They're not that hard to do.
No, it's actually one of the easier cuts of meat to cook.
Yeah, it's not like it's not like doing a brisket. It's not even like doing a pork, but the time it takes, the time that it takes to do a prime rib is, from start to finish, the way you're doing is probably less than 3 hours.
Roughly about 3 hours, maybe 3.5, depending on the size of the rib roast.
And probably the prep, how much you want to prep it too.
Yeah.
But by the time you get it in the oven, and I know there's all sorts of ways to do it. I know some people I've heard, run the oven up to 500, put it in there for 40 minutes, and then turn the oven off and pull it out when the oven's cooled down. I've never tried that. I don't know if I could do. I can't. I don't know if I trust myself enough to keep the door closed on the smoker or the oven. However, I was doing it. You know what I mean?
I actually haven't ever heard of anybody doing it that way. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
I don't think it would actually cook it completely through.
They all, what they say. There's all sorts of ways to get to Chicago. But
that's true.
And so, with your Christmas dinner with your prime rib, how are you gonna? What are you gonna serve with it? I mean, I know you're a restaurateur, and you can fix the fanciest things in the world. You know how to do all that stuff. But what are you, at the Burrows household on Christmas Eve when y'all sit down? What comes with the prime rib?
The craziest thing about me, Steve, is I'm a very simple person, and I believe simplicity is what makes the best food. Truthfully, I serve it with mashed potatoes and honey glazed carrots.
And so those are your two sides.
Those are the two sides. I love those things with it.
Well, I'll tell you, the mashed potatoes, the ones I had at Ruth Chris one time, they're pretty darn good, Roger. So if you can duplicate that, you've got a pretty good dish.
It's phenomenal. I'm very much, I love the idea of simplicity. I think that there's a lot of chefs out there that put way too much stuff into their food, and then they mask the flavor of what it actually is, and it kind of takes away from it, in my opinion. I like it to be simple. I like it to be what it is supposed to be, and I like to actually taste the every ingredient that's in it.
Well, I'm sure if you sat down at your table, we could all probably taste that if we had a chance to sit down and break bread with you. Roger, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I really appreciate it. Thanks for that recipe. I'm gonna. What's the nice thing about doing these things? They live in perpetuity. We can go back and take notes and see if we can improve on the method that we have. It's nice of you to join us. I hope have a great Christmas. Okay, Ruth, Chris, have anything special New Year's Eve?
Well, no, not really special. I mean, we are open all night. We will be serving twin lobster tails. Mm-hmm. That's really our biggest special as far as that goes for New Year's Eve. Other than being extremely busy, we'll probably do 700 or 800 people that night.
Wow, that's a bunch of people. But
it is a whole bunch of people.
I know, having been in that kitchen at one time, that kitchen's big enough to handle it. It's a pretty good kitchen.
We have an awful lot of fun doing it.
Roger, thank you so much. We appreciate you very much.
Steve, have a great day. It was my pleasure. Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas.
You betcha. Roger Burrows, executive chef and one of the regional directors of the executive chefs at all the area Ruth Chris Steakhouse. Did you ever hear the story how they got such a strange name? I think the story goes this lady bought this steakhouse from this guy named Chris, and there was some law that said she couldn't change the name or something, so she just went and called it Ruth, because it's RUTH apostrophe S, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. I think it's something like that. It was a bizarre. You can look it up. Look it up. You'll be able to tell. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. John Hale, thank you so much in the first hour talking about barbecue. Roger Burrows, well, always great talking to Roger. Don't forget, out at the Midnight Oil and Noodle, we have the Instant Read Butcher Barbecue thermometers are back in stock. We got 2 dozen today, and we've got another dozen coming. Only $19.95. I meant to bring one home tonight, and I forgot to. These thermometers, you put them in your meat, and they read instantly. It's got a backlight, easy to use. It's just like the ones that the pros use, and you can buy them only $19.95. You can get them at my place, Steve Ray's Midnight Oil and Noodle. Don't forget, we also have the limited edition Butcher Barbecue custom-made boxes that you can buy for $69. And with that box, go over here to my other prop setting, you get 4 12-ounce bottles of Butcher Barbecue rubs. 4 of these fit in that box just perfectly. They're great, great gift items for the griller or barbecuer in your life. Don't forget, next Wednesday we'll be here with another special show for you. And remember the reason that we like to get together every Wednesday and talk about barbecue and grilling, because you never heard anybody say, hey, won't you come on over Saturday and we'll sous vide. Until next Wednesday, everybody, good cooking to you, and we'll see you then.